Do all the options available during an RPG's character creation sometimes leave you feeling confused or overwhelmed? Do you ever feel creating characters can take longer than playing the game itself? Today's episode will make character creation clear and simple by covering how to create your goblin characters in Goblin Quest RPG and some helpful hints to consider while making your goblins. Welcome to Claim to Game, the podcast helping busy people master tabletop role-playing games one game at a time. I'm Clint.scheirer. I've been an educator for over 12 years and have helped gamers of all levels quickly grasp tabletop role-playing games so they can enjoy playing them to the fullest. Stay tuned so you can make your claim to game. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Episode 4, Season 1 of Claim to Game, a predominantly educational fun podcast in which I am daring to coin the word funjucational. It's like going to a museum for a field trip with your third grade class and getting left behind at night and all the exhibits come alive, minus lead actor Ben Stiller. The game for this season is Goblin Quest RPG, brought to you by game designer Grant Howitt, whose works include but are not limited to Honey Heist Die the RPG, Spire, Unbound, One Last Job, Heart, and most recently at the time of this recording, Eat the Reich. Character creation might be one of my favorite parts of any tabletop RPG. Deciding how my made-up character is going to go through living, breathing, talking, and interacting in a completely made-up world gives me a little bit of a god complex. There is so much power in deciding how they're going to look, what their motives will be, their strengths, their weaknesses. Systems like Pathfinder 2e give tons of customization, nuance to character creation, down to the strands of hairs that are going to be coming out of their nostrils, while games like Goblin Quest were meant more for one-and-done, try-to-kiss-you games. Keep it simple, stupid. Goblin Quest makes character creation and character management very simple overall. In just 7 easy steps, we can get these little critters manifested into existence and causing shenanigans all over the Great Battle Camp. Physically in front of me are some materials to start this process. Listen to what I have. Then feel free to pause, go and grab similar materials to follow along on your own if you want. Then come back and hit play. You will need the following. 1. The Goblin Quest character sheet. This is located right after page 61 in the soft copy of the book, or page 64 through 65 in the PDF version. You determine if you want to print or copy double-sided for one piece of paper, or single-sided, which is my preference, to kill more trees but have a more convenient viewing option with a little bit of Scotch tape. Number 2, your weapon of choice, a pen or a pencil. If you're a wild person, maybe both. Optionally, you may want some colored pencils, crayons, markers, and the like if you are a fancy Nancy who wants to get chancy. And lastly, maybe some Scotch tape or something similar. At this time, feel free to pause the pod. I'll be here when you get back. If you didn't pause the pod and are already prepared, good for you. You endured a second or two of awkward silence. If you are just coming back, welcome back. Missed you. Let's begin by situating this character sheet. Since this character sheet is technically 2 sheets, I prefer to print each page out single-sided and then use some good old Scotch tape to tape them together. Page 64 on the PDF version goes on the left, and page 65 of the PDF version goes on the right. Place them side by side until they meet in the middle. I'm sure there's a country song about that. And congrats. Once you tape it down the middle, you now have a mega character sheet. Congratulations. As I create my very own goblins, you can create yours too. You can make your own choices in lieu of my own. Just pause the pod when necessary and then move on. Also, if you want more examples of the process outside of my own, the Goblin Quest RPG book has a pretend scenario of a group of gamers going through these activities and going through the gameplay in the right-hand margins of most pages. For inspiration when making these choices, or if you're just too lazy to think on your own, I will be referring to pages 56 through 57, which have some great example tables that you can pull from, and it's related to all the choices made during the character creation process. And as I'm sure Mario the Italian plumber would say if he was making goblins, enough talk, here we go! Step number 1 in the 7 steps to create your goblins in Goblin Quest RPG is to create your goblin's family name and also kind of their expertise. Your goblin's family is known as its clutch. The name you choose can be an arbitrary name, or if you like, you can tie in the family name with the expertise. The expertise has a mechanical benefit to the game that we'll talk about later, and it's defined as what the goblins within this family are particularly good at. For the storytelling aspect of the game, this is likely going to become the behavior or the action your goblin's naturally going to engage in as they try to accomplish their quest. On the How Not to DM podcast in April of 2022, the host Derek interviewed Grant Howitt of Rowan, Rook, and Deckard, and when asked about the secret of fitting a great memorable playable game on one page, Grant mentioned one of the key components of a great small short game are tables that play well together. If you have multiple tables or lists containing nouns, adjectives, descriptions which mesh well together, you can program a wide variety of possibilities to get the world building and creativity of a 300-page book into something much shorter. Using the excellent tables on page 56 and 57 of the book, there are about 22 different surnames or family names to steal from and get inspiration from. I'll quickly use a 20-sided dice, even though 2 lonely options won't be considered. It should speed things up. Since I began gaming back in 2015, I've acquired many dice. There's so many dice out there. I still love my Chessex Gemini Black Gray with green polyhedral 7-dice set. My D20 from there is still my absolute favorite D20. I feel like it gives me my best rolls, makes me feel like $1,000,000, and that's what I'm going to be using today. I'll put a link in the show notes in case you're interested in a similar dice set, but here we go. All right, that would be the number 4. And so the surname of our goblins are the Scritch Scratch. The Scritch Scratch Goblin Clan, the clutch. They scritch scratch, which kind of makes me think of a mouse, maybe something that has a really good sense of smell. So that could potentially also play into the expertise. Now, there is a separate table for expertises, or I could draw from the family name, but because I like dice rolling, I'm going to roll to see if I can come up with a hybrid of expertise based on the family name and what I generate. So come on ahead, show me the money. That would be a 19. And on our table, that is making loud noises. So making loud noises, scritch scratching, really good sense of smell. Our goblin's expertise is that they are very good at smelling things that make loud noises. Perfect. Now I'm going to my character sheet. And under my player name, I'm going to write my name. I am the player. My player name is Clint. And then under my clutch, I'm going to put underneath the section that says honorific, the scratch scratches. Below that, I'm going to put what my goblins are good at. And they are good at smelling out things that are making loud noises. This is my expertise. Next, we're going on to step 2, which is the family quirk. The family quirk, just like the expertise above, has both a practical and game mechanic, as well as a great launching point for storytelling hooks. We got 26 quirks or defining characteristics here on our tables in the book. I'm going to keep it simple and roll a d20. I've gone ahead and numbered each one of the options on a printed page with the tables, and I live on the wild side, so I'm going to roll 2 and then see how we can enjoy combining together these quirks with the 2 results into a super quirk better than if they were separate. So here we go. Number 1 is 10, and the second roll is also 10. Well, that's no fun. Let's roll it again. That is an 18. So 10 and 18, going over to the quirks, 10 would be shifty looks and 18 is amphibious. So the quirks for my goblins is that they have shifty amphibious eyes that can see underwater and also can see above things. Since I know that frogs typically, when they're in the water, their eyes are on the top of their head so that they can see predators when they're coming. So this could kind of be like a defense mechanism, but we have shifty amphibious eyes as our family quirk. Step number 3 is the family dream. The family dream is a built in motivation for the goblins in your clutch. What is the family's passion? What do they want to be when they grow up? Since they have a whole week before they grow up and meet their demise, this is probably not very important. Since all the goblins share something of a hive mind, they aren't super individualistic, and you are really just thinking of one thing that all 5 of your goblins share in common as a driving motivation. The motivation behind a character's actions in most other games provides me, Clint, the richest and most enjoyable moments of all my gaming. One of my favorite tabletop RPG books for game masters is Robin's Laws of Good Game Mastering, written by Robin D. Laws. If you're interested in taking a read yourself, you can get your own copy through the link in our show notes. Coincidentally, Robin D. Laws also contributed to some of the adventuring ideas in Goblin Quest RPG. In the book, you'll find his ideas on page 22, and it was requested per Grant Howitt. Robin speaks to 7 different types of RPG gamers. After taking an online quiz, which I can't get enough of those, am I right? My gamer DNA, or my gamer makeup, was 71% method actor. The definition of this player type is a method actor believes that the role playing is a medium for personal expression and strongly identifies with the character he or she is playing. The method actor bases his decisions in the game on his understanding of his character's psychology. Now, in some cases, a complete hardcore method actor can become an obstruction or a frustration within a gaming group, especially if they play to their character's motivations and their choices are hurting and harming the objectives trying to be overcome by the party. An example, the method actor is playing an elven monk who really likes to punch people in the face in the middle of their sentences out of fits of uncontrollable rage. In situations where punching someone in the middle of their sentence would put the party in an unnecessary fight or combat, the method actor who acts to their motivations or behavior is not really desirable at the table. They cause more harm than help. At least that's how I would assume it would be at most tables. But in the case of Goblin Quest, you are called to be a method actor to the extreme. If your goblin's family's dream is to be the world's most renowned baker, why wouldn't it be normal for you to try to bribe the bugbear at the Dun Inn with delicious baked goods? Or in order to get the materials needed to create a flying machine, you make a cake and then pop out of it. It's brilliant. Even if logically there is a better, more direct way to get the job done, err on the side of playing to your character's psychology in Goblin Quest. A psychology which is so single-minded, one-tracked, and absolutely hilarious. On page 25, you'll see a short list of ideas for your family's dream, their motivation. I'm going to take the idea of the celebrity and keep my earlier idea of the baker. Our goblin wants to be known throughout the land as the most talented baker in the Great Battle Camp and beyond. A bacon celebrity, but not like a bacon celebrity, not like Porky Pig or the breakfast food, though that would make your goblin way more delicious. So I'm going back to my character sheet, and underneath the area below quirk, I'm going to go one step further. It's going to say dream, and in the area below dream, I will write that my goblins want to be celebrity bakers. Which brings us to step 4, ancestral heirloom. An ancestral heirloom is basically a piece of trash or garbage that your goblin has naively taken as a treasure to be used, hopefully, during the quest to achieve their goal. Just like the goblins themselves, these items are meant to be incompetent and more often than not, useless. However, mechanically, if the player can find a way to weave it into the story and the actions being taken with this ancestral heirloom can benefit the outcome of whatever they're trying to do, it will progress the narrative, or at least give you a mechanical benefit to progress the narratives. Therefore, it isn't completely useless as far as the game goes for the player. The examples on page 57 are just too darn good, so I'll go ahead, take my dice, and we're going to give it a roll for our ancestral heirloom. We are number 11. Our heirloom is the dented brass tankard that once held beer. So an empty metal tankard of beer that is made of brass and it has absolutely nothing inside of it. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and write that on the line of ancestral heirloom, the dented brass tankard that once held beer. And now we approach step 5, naming your goblins. Naming a character in tabletop RPGs can be as intricate and meaningful or as silly as you want. The Goblin Quest book encourages you to pick simple, short, 1 to 2 syllable or syllables, however you say it, tomato, tomato, names for your goblins. And we're going to use the name tables on page 56. I've gone ahead and saved us some time, and I have pre-rolled my names. So here is your starting lineup for Goblin Quest. We got Canker, like the sore, Zip, like the line, Haiti, not like the country, Scratchy, like that cartoon cat from The Simpsons, and Lax, like laxative, smooth. An alternative option I'll suggest is using random name generators or baby name websites. Great wealths of resources there and only a simple Google search away. But don't give too much thought to it. You could just name each of them after a member of your family or some of your friends and call it a day. Now, if one of those friends or family is sitting at the table, you may want to choose somebody else who's there. Otherwise, it could get confusing or maybe even offensive. And that leads us to step 6, drawing your goblins. The book suggests that you can be as creative or as simple as you'd like. This is where those colored pencils, crayons, and markers could come in handy if you want to be fancy. This step helps me make sense of the differences between these goblins, makes them a little bit more unique, and separates them slightly from one another. Besides the name, there is a spot on the character sheet by each goblin to have their own defining feature. Feel free to pull these from the table on page 56, which you used for the family quirks back in step 2. Alternative strategy, you could type it into Google, get a list of adjectives or a list of funny, unique adjectives and pull from that list as well. This is what I chose to do. I did a quick Google search with some defining features, and they are as follows. Canker has ape-like arms. Zip has large ears. Haiti shakes like a Polaroid picture constantly. Scratchy is indecisive to the point of inaction, and Lax is a vibrant aquamarine color. The final step, step 7, is really more of a suggestion insisted upon by author Grant Howitt as a way to encourage the spirit of fun within the game, talking in a silly, high-pitched, awful goblin-like voice. Now, if you're playing with new players, I found that some of them are a little bit more timid in their not letting their personalities come out yet, or anybody who's ever had tabletop RPG hesitation will also often say to me when I invite them to play, I'm not going to have to talk in a weird accent or dress up like an elf or wizard, am I? Well, if you feel insisting on your players talking in a silly voice could make them avoid the game, not want to attend, or deter them from ever wanting to attend again any gaming function that you have in the future, it's up to you if you want to pass on this. To this point, though, consider asking them to step outside their comfort zone. Think of how much fun it is to pretend to talk like Yoda from Star Wars, or Dobby from Harry Potter, or Gollum from The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. If you break out your best and possibly imperfect impression, you'll have some fun and maybe even encourage others to express themselves in ways that they could never do except for when they're playing a fun, goofy game like this. What better unique outlet could you possibly provide? And if you talk in your goblin voice enough, maybe your resistant players will have a if you can't beat them, join them moment. And in the end, everybody wins. Kind of like all the sports since the mid to late 90s. We're all winners, aren't we? And now you're ready to move on. You've successfully conjured up 5 little impish avatars who will give you a small place in the story that's about to unfold, or rather spontaneously combust. Next time, you'll be putting together your quest. What is the ultimate goal for your goblins? What do they want to do? And how are they going to do it? Maybe this question fills you with indecisive indecision. Never fear. We are going to take a look at some of the fantastic adventure ideas submitted by rockin' game designers when Goblin Quest RPG was being written. If you haven't a clue how to get started, pick a pre-baked idea and run with it. If this is the first episode you've listened to, welcome to the pod. Don't forget, if you'd like to get your own copy of Goblin Quest to follow step by step as we learn, I will include a link to it in the show notes for your purchase. Just a disclaimer, any products I provide links to in the show notes are affiliate links, and if you choose to use them, I may earn affiliate commission at no extra cost to you. But I do only promote products or services that I have investigated and feel can deliver value to you, such as Goblin Quest. Join us in 2 weeks as we continue our quest, Claiming Goblin Quest. We'll address that quest, flesh out the bones of the adventure, and look at some of the high-quality adventure hooks to help you get started if you need a little push into that creative pond. Can't get enough? Subscribe to our show through the podcast listening application of your choice and leave us a banging review, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until next time we make our claim to game, one game at a time.